What's going on, everybody? Bitcoin versus gold. The great debate with Michael Saylor and Frank Giustra. Man, I did a video about this a couple of weeks ago, about this debate, right? Ironically, David from Kitco, he's the one that announced it with Frank Giustra on his show, right? But he didn't get the debate. He didn't get the honor of doing it. Who did do it was Daniela from Stansberry Research, which she used to work for. She used to be on Kitco and stuff like that, former employee, but she does a great job on Stansberry Research. And let me tell you something. I'm going to break down the debate. I've only watched it once and I didn't take a bunch of notes, but I'm going to give you my thoughts on both, what they both said, things, and I'm going to talk about both of the guys, and also I'm going to tell you who I thought won, right? But let me talk about Daniela for a minute. Daniela, whatever you want to call her. She did a great job, man. She is, to me, she's the best when it comes to precious metals and our industry interviewer on the planet, in my personal opinion. She really is. Everybody goes to her channel or her site or whatever, and they all say the same thing. They all say it's a pleasure to be here with you, and you're the best, and blah 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 blah. I'm just finding out about her. I knew about her for a few months now, and she just does a great job, man. I mean, I like David too. David's one of my tops, but I like her better because she actually lets them talk more, and I think David is a little bit more robotic. She has more personality, and like I said, she doesn't interrupt as much as David does. David interrupts a little bit too much, and he gives his thoughts a lot about different things, and that's fine. But I'm not here to hear the interviewer's thoughts. I want to hear the guest's thoughts. So, speaking of that, let's break it down. So, what do I think about the debate? It was fun. It was great. I really liked it. And funny thing is, Michael actually did mention David in the debate about gold. When he was talking about gold, he basically said, David said, what happens if they stop mining gold? And Michael said, well, you know what would happen. You know what I mean? The price would go up. So it was a very interesting debate. So let's talk about Frank first, right? Frank needs no introduction. If you don't know who he is, Google him. Great guy. He I liked his style. He was very he was more emotional than Michael was. Michael was very logical, and Frank was emotional, right? Not in a bad way. They're both, there's always a mixed bag of both of these things, but he was more emotional than logical. His thing is, his angle is, he was more debating, in my opinion, he was more debating, Michael's philosophies and the way Michael thinks and talks about Bitcoin to the masses and the damage he's doing, versus him debating which is better, gold versus Bitcoin. He did do that. He probably 10 to 25% was mostly, talking about Bitcoin versus gold, but the other 90 to 75% or 75% to 90 was basically trying to say that how wrong Michael was. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's just what it was. Also, I think Frank was hesitating a lot. Frank wasn't as fluid as his opponent was. He was hesitant about some things. He had some facts, don't get me wrong, but he definitely didn't have as many facts as Michael. But he was definitely directing and, going at Michael almost in an attack style. He said it wasn't personal, but it definitely was. He said he wasn't a Bitcoin hater. He cleaned it up at the end, and in his closing statements, he kind of cleaned it up and said, I'm not a Bitcoin hater. You should have a little bit of Bitcoin and, things like that. But throughout the other, hour, and this was almost 2 hours, it was an hour and 56 minutes. Throughout the other almost 2 hours, he definitely sounded like a Bitcoin hater to me. And mostly a Michael Saylor philosophy hater. He did not like things Michael Saylor was saying, and he told him about it. Basically he said that he don't like the message that's saying all your money should go into Bitcoin. He basically said that's stupid to put all your eggs in one basket. And I agree with that. You shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. Because Michael said something about, everybody says, put 10% into gold and, for a hedge of inflation. And Michael was like, well, what about the other 90%? And he was basically saying that your other 90% should go into Bitcoin. And, Frank didn't like that at all. Michael, when Frank was talking, he seemed very perturbed when they showed the split screen of both of them. he would move around in his chair. He would fidget. He'd make, he'd breathe heavy or make noises or roll his eyes or something like that. He was very he was a lot more emotional than Michael. He definitely thinks gold is better than Bitcoin. That's for sure. He basically, his arguments are gold is a proven commodity. Bitcoin hasn't been around a lot. It's definitely more volatile. Bitcoin is, and he's basically saying that the risks that you take with Bitcoin, Michael seems to gloss over. He doesn't talk about them a lot, and he's basically saying, Frank, he's saying that gold is a more steady hedge on inflation. He didn't say it was an investment, but it's a hedge on inflation, and you should definitely have it in your portfolio. And basically, Michael says the other way. Also, Michael talks about the government regulations, and this is a big one for him. Excuse me, Frank says the government regulations of Bitcoin. He was basically saying, when Michael was talking about all these things about Bitcoin, he said, look, man, in the world that you're living in, because I don't live in that world, this is what Frank was saying, that Bitcoin is just going to explode and all this other stuff. If it does, you think the government's really going to let their currency go towards the Bitcoin and not put any regulations or ban it? I mean, absolutely not. Because basically Michael said something about, if God made a money or a currency, he would create Bitcoin. And, Frank kind of made fun of him about that and said, well, if God made the world wouldn't be such and such, such and such, and stuff like that. So he basically saying Michael is kind of delusional to and ignoring the facts that there's a government here that is not going to allow this. It's not going to allow Bitcoin just to overrun the U.S. Dollar and the U.S. currency. And I agree with that with Frank. I'm not going to lie. That's why I have gold, just in case, that happens, because Bitcoin, like Frank was saying, it's a digital currency and it can be hacked. You know what I mean? And then, Frank, it sounds like to me he didn't like Bitcoin at all. I mean, he's just he's against Bitcoin. But he's more against Michael's philosophies on what he's trying to accomplish of buying Bitcoin, and also he kind of like steps on and disses gold, and he takes offense to that. He really does. Frank does. He also calls it a pyramid scheme. Frank calls the way Michael Saylor talks about and the other big wigs that have Bitcoin and his followers. It's almost like a cult or Jim Jones slash pyramid scheme. These guys are just going crazy over it. He doesn't like the way the internet bullies people that don't want Bitcoin or like gold, and he was very adamant about that in his closing remarks. He just doesn't like it. I think he said something about Frank. He said something about Bitcoin owners. 2% of the who own the Bitcoin, 2% of the rich people, or 2% of the total 100% of Bitcoin owners own 95% of Bitcoin, and the other 1,000 own something. And then Michael said that's not true. So Frank is very against, like I said, Bitcoin, its philosophies, and that it's just going to go to the moon. He just doesn't like it. He also went over his time a lot. Frank did. Now the way it was set up was each person gets 5 minutes. You got an opening statement, then the other person gets an opening statement, and then she'll use a topic. She'll say, Bitcoin and gold versus. It'll say Bitcoin as a security, or Bitcoin as a measure of money, or whatever the subject was. And they each had 5 minutes. Well, each time, and maybe except once, I believe, Frank went over his 5 minutes because he was like, he was kind of getting emotional, and he was looking down, and he was, hesitating and stopped. And Michael was kind of the opposite. I'll get to that in a second. So overall, I think Frank did a good job of talking about what he was doing, but he definitely was making a debate, not about Bitcoin versus gold mostly, but definitely about Michael's philosophies. And Frank doesn't like the fact that the way Michael makes it like a pyramid scheme and a culty thing, and that gold is nothing and Bitcoin is everything. Let's talk about Michael. Now, Michael, if you know Michael Saylor, you talking about this guy's like, he's next level genius, man. This man is, he's something to watch. He's something to marvel when he talks. He's very, very logical, technical, and matter of fact. Barely any emotion. Every once in a while he'll like smirk and laugh, but when he talks, he like barely opens his mouth. But when he's spitting out stuff, he's spitting out some truth serum. When he was talking, he barely mentioned Frank at all. I think he mentioned him maybe once or twice during the debate. I think, he talked about him obviously at the closing statements and when they're having their little niceties at the end. But mentioning Frank by name, I only remember once. He might have did it twice, and that was in the rebuttal segment. You know what I mean? But when he was talking about Bitcoin, and he was talking about the numbers, and he was talking about gold, and he was talking about where you should park your money, and he was talking about the facts and the numbers and everything else. The people he was talking about was like Mike Maloney or this investor or that investor said this and that. He had quotes. I mean, he was very well prepared. Frank was prepared too, but I think Michael was definitely more prepared. He was making his case for Bitcoin over gold, and like I said, not really even addressing Frank at all. He was just talking about the facts. And it was a great thing to watch. One thing about Michael that I didn't like is he almost glossed over the fact that, and he almost did this on purpose, I think. He glossed over the fact about the government regulations and the banning of Bitcoin. Frank brought that up many times, and I'm not saying he ignored it, but he didn't hit it head on like he did with the other rebuttals and segments he did about gold versus Bitcoin. I think he is a little bit delusional to think that the government's not going to regulate Bitcoin. He goes on to say, and it's almost like he's acting like, in the sense that I got, he was acting like Bitcoin and gold, Bitcoin is going side by side with currency and the government instead. And it was like, the currency, the monetary system of America and all the, other fiat currencies are with Bitcoin, and the enemy is gold. And I disagree with that, and I could be wrong. Tell me in the comment section below if you think I was wrong about my thoughts on that. I really think he was pushing that home, but I really think that he was glossing over the fact that I think gold and Bitcoin should, go hand in hand. They have the same thing. And he did say, to his defense, he did say 95% of gold owners and Bitcoin owners think the same, except for, he said, gold owners don't realize that money is technology. And that was powerful. And he also talked about the blockchain and everything. And what he said was, there are rules, but no rulers. And I like that. In other words, he's saying that in Bitcoin, there's rules to it, but nobody rules over you like they do with gold, because you can get it compensated, you can get it taxed, the mining industry and everything else. So he was really pretty precise with that. I liked his style, man. I really did. He just used numbers and facts, and he was very technical. Like I said before, he did a great job. And the bottom line is this: he put his money where his mouth is. So does Frank. His money's in the gold. At least 10%. And he said that he doesn't own paper, but he does own a mining company. But what what Michael said is, Frank is looking at it through the lens of a mining company owner, because mining company owners are different than people that actually own gold, and they kind of fight against each other. He said that happens sometimes. It was a good thing, man. And what I said about him putting his money where his mouth is, Michael, he basically said, look, when it was time to allocate that 1.5 billion or whatever he put into Bitcoin, that a lot of money, he said, hey, I had to look at both of them, and I looked at them, and he said, I either got to choose one or the other. You either choose right or choose wrong. And he chose Bitcoin. And he goes on to all the reasons he did choose Bitcoin. And he was very, very elegant the way he was telling how great Bitcoin is, man. I might make another video breaking down each segment, but that was a hell of a debate. I'm so glad that happened. Guys, if you haven't watched it, please, number one, watch it, take notes, and send that debate to people who don't know about Bitcoin and don't know about gold, because it was absolutely outstanding. So, who do I think won the debate? I think based on what I'm saying. I believe Michael Saylor won that debate, and I'm going to tell you guys why. Couple of reasons. Number one is he's the main reason I have Bitcoin. I have more Bitcoin now than I do as far as capital cash goes. I have more money into Bitcoin than I do gold. That's number one. Number two, he's made the case for me that if I only had to choose one, I would choose Bitcoin over gold. If I only had to choose one, if there was a gun to my head. But if I had to allocate $1,000, I'd put more into Bitcoin than I would with gold. And that's what I'm doing right now. And it's because of him and his philosophies and what he's saying. That's a couple of reasons. Another reason was if a new person came and didn't know anything, let's say a new millennial came in and didn't know anything about gold and Bitcoin, and he just typed in, if I had $1,000, what should I do with my $1,000? And he typed in investing or something, and that debate came up. He goes, oh, I've heard a little bit about Bitcoin and gold. I don't know anything about them. Let me listen to it. If a millennial listened to it, and guys, even though some of us aren't millennials, the ones that aren't are, you have to think like a millennial. You have to be, you have to have adaptability, and I'll make another video about that. I think Michael Saylor definitely made the case better than Frank would to a millennial because of technology and the way he was speaking and how fluid and fast the world is. And he basically compared Bitcoin to a to an old horse, gold to an old horse, and Bitcoin to a new top-notch freaking car or something. You know what I'm saying? It's just, and he made several different analogies and comparisons to old stuff that happened back in the past to what's going on now. And the way he says it, it's true. And it almost made Frank sound like a grumpy old man that was trying to hold on to old philosophies and ideals, and who had a horse and said, who would want that contraption of a car? I'm keeping my horse. That's almost the way he made him sound. So definitely I think Michael Saylor won it. But I agree with Frank on you definitely should diversify and not put all your eggs in one basket. I definitely would choose Michael Saylor's philosophies over Frank's when it comes to everything else. But if I had to choose who won, I would choose Michael Saylor. But I agree with Frank on diversifying, guys, and you should do that too and do your own research. But at the end of the day, we witnessed two brilliant men making arguments on two of the best assets on the planet in gold and Bitcoin. And guys, if you haven't bought any Bitcoin or gold, I suggest you do both. Listen to this debate and make your own decisions based on your own research, and make sure you pass along this video because, guys, the future's coming. We can't stop it. And at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for you and your family. And this was a great debate, man. It really was. And I hope you guys got something out of it, and we can pass it along. And let's see what happens in the future. All right, guys, let me know what you think about the video. Do me a favor, guys. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. My name is Jerry. I love silver. I love platinum, Bitcoin, and gold. I love them all. If you haven't been here yet, go ahead, like I said, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button, only if you like it. Share the video if you can. And yeah, guys, let's get this word out. Watch this video. Watch the debate and everything, and let's see how this stuff goes, man. It's crazy. If you're new to the channel, welcome here. You will not be disappointed if you subscribe. I'm a pretty funny guy, and I got some good videos, hopefully. All right, see you guys soon, all right? Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. You know that. Peace and love.